Hello and welcome back to A Screenwriter's Journey. Day 80 is a big one, and by big I mean pretty long, 30 plus minutes, which means 2.5 hours that I wrote that day, which is a good day. It was probably a Saturday, could have been a Sunday. Anyways, we left Holly and Hogan. They had talked to Noble, and so I introduced this sort of metaphor of popping the fridge instead of the trunk. I thought it might be I don't think it's so cutesy that it's like, ugh. I don't know that I've heard that term before. And I don't know. Let me know if you think it works in the comments after you do what? Share and subscribe and like. I think I've still only gained one subscriber so far, averaging about 5 views a day. But that's not why I'm in it. I'm in it for the money. Um, so 5. All right. So at the Crossroads, she opens the trunk, aka the fridge, and then she has that no light beer thing, which, again, hopefully people get it and it doesn't come across as too corny. Something that she would say that would sort of make them both feel like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Not really. I don't know why I just said that. So she pulls out a couple guns, and yes, I did my research to find out what kind of guns or rifles they would probably have, how many rounds they have. And now here comes the pickup truck. So again, this is I think this is virgin writing, right? I don't think I've written this before because this is a brand new scene and I'm sort of behind in my reading here. So I had a pretty good idea of what I want to happen, what I wanted to happen. Holly is trying to kind of create a diversion, aka put them out of commission, hoping that either she'll hit the truck and both guys will come out looking for her, and then Hogan can go back and grab the kids, or they can escape, or something. Now, obviously, this being Hollywood, although this probably won't be a Hollywood movie, she's in the woods. I picture her, I don't know, 50 yards. 50 yards is a long ways. 25 yards is only 75 feet. So maybe she's 50 yards, 100, 150 feet, something away. And she's got an opening in the trees. And so she's got a target, but she has to wait for it to pass by the opening. Because if she pans, if she moves the gun, she's going to hit a bunch of trees. So she's got a opening and she's got to time it right. So she does 3 quick shots, probably, I don't know, a second apart or maybe less. So I think if you do the math, I don't know if all 3 of those would hit the truck. I think they could. Bang, bang, bang. Maybe even faster than a second apiece. So, at some point, the tide's got to turn toward the good guys. So I figure that it would be reasonable that she could, ping 2 and then actually hit a tire on one. Now, of course, there is a chance that she would hit the back door. It would go through and kill everyone in the back seat, but that would be extremely unfortunate and end the movie a lot quicker than it needs to be. So she ping and then blows out the tire, which I think is realistic. She hasn't really done anything super macho, has she? I mean, she drove the go-kart and she's driving the car fast, and she doesn't really act like a superhero, macho, tough person that can destroy everything. And that's certainly not what I wanted. And I don't like when, whether they're males or females, just like go completely out of their mind and do crazy stuff. And that's not the genre of this anyway. So, anyways, Clyde and Ace aren't happy about that. And Ace tells Clyde, put one in him for me too. Of course, assuming it's a guy, they don't know who it is. Although, I just realized, well, they wouldn't necessarily know, because I was thinking they passed Hogan and Holly, and would you notice, I don't know if you'd notice that it was a guy and a girl, guy and a gal, sorry. or not, but just generically, put one in him for me too. Not knowing, and I don't even know if that matters. Anyway, so Clyde is going into the woods, and I don't know if it's probably not clear as I've written it why Holly misses him. Well, it could be she's not trying to kill him. She's trying to wound him or just, divert him, distract him, hoping to get the other guy out. Or there could just be so many trees that she's lucky to even get a shot off that doesn't ricochet off one. So that may need a little bit more explanation in how I set the scene up, but that's the idea. So we're back in the van or in the pickup truck, and Ace is like not happy. And so then he calls and says, look, we need one of those vans that just took out the FBI guys to come and not get us, but come bring the van so we can take them down to the airport. Now this little exchange coming up, I particularly like, and it's so funny. I'm not saying these are great ideas or whatever, but it's funny where your ideas come from. And when you're writing, some just come to you. It's like, oh, I know exactly what Ace is going to say. So I will just let you read this as I write it. Or maybe I'll talk a little bit more. Because obviously, we know the game 20 questions, and he's literally not going to ask 20 questions. But I think setting it up like that makes it a little more viable for just, yes, we're going to have some questions and answers, because I haven't had too much of that throughout the script. It's mostly questions and then questions and then questions. And some of those questions answer questions, but they're not just like boom, boom, boom. Another reason to take the passengers. Yeah, see, that the way that's worded is a little confusing. We need another vehicle to take the passengers the rest of the way. That's literally what they need. What he means is we need you guys to bring us a vehicle so we can take the passengers the rest of the way. But I don't know that that's super important that he says that exactly right. I think people will understand. If they don't, I will change it. All right, what am I doing here? So, yeah, and so they need a vehicle so they can take him down to the airport, and then they also need a couple to find this car, basically Hogan's car. So, as the kids say, I'm sending a pin. I guess it's not only kids that say that, but I mean, just think about that from 10 years ago or whatever, where you'd have to say, I'm at the corner of 5th and Main Street, and I'm 200 yards up the road or whatever. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So now I'm playing with this idea of 20 questions. So let's just see how this plays out. I don't know. Ooh, I kind of like that. I don't know if I'll change that later. Wink, wink. But that's, I kind of like that. Maybe if you like that better than anything else in the world, in the history of screenwriting, let me know. All right. Through her scope, Holly watches Clyde move from tree to tree. Okay, so she's in the car, or she's in the woods. Oh, gosh, this is blah, 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 blah. So, of course, it's always good to complicate things. And so what could be worse? Well, if a nuclear bomb went off, that would be worse. But what could be worse than Paul calling right as she's in the middle of literally fighting for her life? And so he's just going to sort of pile on. And I'm going to tell you right now that when I wrote this first pass of dialogue, I wanted to get the gist of what I wanted to say, but it may take me a while to get it just how I want it. But basically, in essence, what I want to get across, obviously, he doesn't know the predicament she's in. He knows that she's up there, and he's found out from Justice Martinez people that Holly isn't on the plane, which she should be by now, or, they've called, and somehow they know that she isn't where she should be, and they've called him. He's called in to say something. It doesn't really matter. I think the important thing is that Paul is not happy that she is not headed to Washington. And since she doesn't answer right away, Paul realizes that she's probably trying to make up a lie, because he now has proof that she's lied to him at least once, if not more. And so he says, while you're working on that one, please tell me the other kids aren't with you. And then she can truthfully answer that one. And then she can truthfully answer the next one, because she doesn't know exactly where they are. She has a pretty good idea. And then Paul sort of trumps her, puts her in a deeper hole by basically telling her where exactly they are. The implication being, I know what you've done, and you're not going to hide from me any longer. And so, as I've said many times, when you don't want to carry on a conversation, you could have a gunshot go off, or you could have the door open, or you could have a phone call, or you could have someone trip and fall. That is the beauty of being the screenwriter, because you are God, a God. I won't say the God. You are a God of your universe, or the God. So you can imagine Paul hearing this gun puts the conversation in a whole new light, because now he realizes, A, she's outside, which maybe he realizes already. B, she's taking fire. And C, she has taken the call while she's in the midst. She's not really in a firefight, but obviously she's in a bad situation, and yet she took his call. So maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it seems like that kind of speaks, if not volumes. It's maybe kind of like, wow, he's thinking, wow, she took the call even though all this is going on. So this is where, I'm working on this dialogue here. I'm taking a little break to fix something else. So this, and again, and I don't really realize it while I'm writing this, but knowing that the script basically has 25 pages to go, 25 minutes, this is pretty much has to be the Act 3 turning point, which what leads up to that, of course, is the All is Lost and Dark Night of the Soul. I don't know why I can't get that right, from Save the Cat. So this has got to be Holly's lowest point, and then something's got to happen. She's got to dig down deep, sort of, and turn it around. So, as I said before, in the previous drafts, which I'm a little bit ashamed to admit, I don't really think I had any sort of... we had bad guys closing in, all is lost. Originally, I kind of thought the all is lost is when they came and got the kids, but that's not really all is lost for Holly, unless they came and got the kids and she had no idea where they were. That could kind of be. So I am trying to get her into a big of a pickle as possible, and a serious pickle, being shot at. And, who knows what's going to happen to Hogan? Who knows what's going to happen to the kids? Is she going to get stuck there or whatever? So I thought that this would at least get me on that path toward the all is lost. All right, so I'm back to the beginning of this sequence. Looks like I'm taking a little break. Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. So it looks like I've kind of, I haven't jumped ahead, but there we go. Ace has told Clyde that they're going to leave, so he doesn't have a chance to finish her off. He doesn't know if, she's, well, he's a she or she's a he or whatever. Doesn't know if he's hit him / her, I'll just say her, or exactly where it stands. But as Ace said, look, you got to go now. We don't have time to fiddle around here. And really, they don't really need to worry about her all that much because she poses no real threat unless she can run 65 miles an hour. Because even if she's got a phone she could use and call the FBI, they have to know, I think, that the FBI poses no super imminent threat because of springing this thing basically 12 hours earlier or 14 hours earlier or whatever it is. So, okay, so they drive off and then Holly watches the van. Watches the van? Oh, yeah, it is a van now because they moved from the pickup truck to the van. So she gets out her phone, she calls Hogan, and basically, she wants to make sure she's alive. He's probably happy to hear that she is because he starts with that kind of little light question. And so, those roads that they do when they log, and they're just sort of dirt glorified trails. So I figured in the part of the country they're in, he could have found one of those, driven back. And even if he's only, 100 yards, 200 yards off the road, even if they turned in and found him, quote, he could hear him coming. He could, run off with his rifle, something. So I figure he's pretty much safe. All right. I KO'd the pickup. So this is, I shouldn't say this because it's probably not true, but it feels like just seeing that thing of I KO'd the pickup. This is just pure exposition. It's not layered with anything. It's like, look, we need to get this information across. Boom, she did it. And I guess my advice on that, I haven't really given much advice, or maybe this whole thing is advice. If you've got to give exposition, just pour it out as quick as possible. I mean, Star Wars obviously starts with the crawl, and that's literal, just boom, exposition. But since it doesn't last like 3 minutes, like some movies, so many bad movies where they realize after the fact, oh my gosh, this is hard to understand. We're going to have voiceover for the first 10 minutes of the movie. Oh, that's not good. So she just, spews, for lack of a better term, out a little exposition. Okay. I mean, I guess this may not be true, but not every line of dialogue should be or can be just layered with subtext. Maybe that is an oversimplification or a justification, but certainly that would be a lot of work. Okay. So I'm just figuring out how best to get this bit out as fast as we can because literally they don't have much time. You figure the van came, turned around, she is calling Paul, and if they're not, well, if they know where they're going, they don't necessarily literally need to follow them because they know where they think they're going, but they certainly don't have, an hour to spare or even who knows how long to spare. And having just said that, it's certainly going to take them some amount of time to get back following them. So I may have to try to justify that later. But sometimes also writers like myself and like you get caught up in really being super precise and saying, well, if this person's a mile away and runs 2 miles an hour and this person's 10 miles away and runs 10 miles an hour, if they don't get there at the exact same time, the audience is going to wonder what's going on. But in reality, you can't totally cheat, but I think if at this point the audience is invested in the story enough, they're going to either cut you a little slack or hopefully that will be the last thing on their mind is adding up how soon someone can get there compared to someone else. And you see that all the time. And, you just have to not break sort of that promise you've made with the audience that I'm going to try to tell you not a totally accurate story, but I'm going to tell you a good story in such a way that you don't have to worry about looking at your watch and saying, oh, they shouldn't have been there for another 30 seconds. This movie has totally been ruined. All right. So as I've been talking, I've also been writing, which is the beauty about doing a voiceover later. Okay. Noble just called, working up. Oh, gosh, why do I yawn at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? I apologize. All right, so this is a little bit wordy right now. Again, page 83. So, this is into Act 3, but have we really had that turning point? Is the turning point the bad guys bringing in the van, shooting at Rachel? I guess you can make an argument. The break into 2 is a little easier usually to detect because something dramatic happens and it's a clear, you're moving into the second part of the movie, the second act. Between 2 and 3, I mean, sometimes I guess like a movie like Independence Day when the president makes that speech and every day will be Independence Day or whatever he says, that's clearly kicking him into Act 3. Well, and I guess, Star Wars, they make the plan of how they're going to make the attack on the Death Star and all that. Non-action movies, romantic comedies, it's usually the point where they break up and, they both go through bad times and something kicks off the third act. But anyways, yeah, I'm not 100% clear that I have that or convinced that I really have that kick into 3. So as I'm talking here, I'm writing back when I was writing this, trying to get this dialogue right. I think the key thing here is what I just wrote, Hogan saying, my orders are basically to pick you up and get you out of here and make sure you're gone for whatever reason. It may be because they are pulling the plug. It may be they don't want the U.S. Marshals involved. They want to kind of sweep this under the rug. Maybe now they have kind of thrown in the towel because they're not following the bad guys. They think they're going to that airport, but they don't really know. They have no real agents there. Again, I'm sure if some FBI person read this, he or she could shoot it full of holes and say, oh, we could have agents anywhere within 30 minutes, anywhere in the country. But I'm going with a big no on that because this is not super heavily populated. And they had 6 of their agents killed, which, you can't have it's not like endless shrimp at Red Lobster. You can't always have a bunch of people waiting in the wings. It's just like, the movies where they've always got more bullets in their chamber and their magazine and they just shoot and never run out. Or whether it's good guys or bad guys, the reinforcements just keep coming and coming and coming. And so from that standpoint, again, hopefully the audience isn't going, oh, well, that's not true. The FBI could actually have unlimited manpower or, fill in the blank. So I kind of lost track of what I was doing, but I was writing that scene, basically Holly being told that the case is closed. And there goes another yawn. I should probably cut that out, but, and a lip smack. I apologize for those lip smacks. That's one of my pet peeves. All right, now you just read the part about the clothing store and all that, which is not new. This is new here. They're in this van. And I was thinking when Rachel, because at the very beginning, I think the first line of Holly's to who becomes Lexi, the little girl, is, it will be okay. It'll be all right. And I have to go back and make sure that line matches. So would it be too big of a stretch? I'm asking you. as a potential audience and maybe a buyer. Maybe you're a producer reading this, unlikely, or a millionaire. Is it too much of a stretch to think of 3 or 4-year-old sitting in a very similar vehicle, kind of in a similarly tense situation, having someone say something that was said 14 years ago? Is it too much to ask that she would sort of have a flashback? Because that's sort of what, obviously, I'm banking on there. In the meantime, I'm going back and... oh my gosh. See, now this is not good. Because, yeah, they've already found the airport. And so I've lost track of that in my writing, in my organization or lack thereof. So, yeah, that's not going to work, is it? That's not going to work. I'm going to need to change that. This, I really like the visuals of this. I didn't really read how Hogan and Holly's... oh, maybe I'm going to rewrite that here. I'm sort of jumping around. So that scene at the very beginning where the pickup shredded tire lays in the middle of the road, Hogan's car approaches, slows. As soon as he sees, he knows exactly what's happened. And that's why he kind of chuckles. And then we cut to Holly bombing along. So she's obviously changed the tire. She's going back to get the kids. Oh, big change, medium change, safe house. Why? Well, Wright City is a very small city, as it turns out. It's probably a town at the most, and highly unlikely, because I looked it up on the map, that there's any Motel 6s or 7s or 4s or Hiltons or, Holiday Inns. And so I figured, of course, what are the chances they're going to have a safe house in a little town like this, now that I think about it? But I think that, it could be called a safe house, but who knows? They could have called the day before and said, hey, are there any vacant houses there? We need to use one for something. So that's what I'm thinking of when I call it a safe house. Goodbye, Motel 6. And I mean, that works better also because then you don't have branding issues, and it's funny how, again, you can write something and it gets set in your mind and it's like, that's the way it's got to be. And then when you reread it and say, well, wouldn't it be simpler if we did Y instead of X? And typically, yes. All right. So, yeah, you saw at the top of 85, if you were watching carefully, that Holly is still asking her to check on the, asking Abby to check on the airport, which is not needed. And then, what is Noble saying there? We've got 2 choppers inbound. Yeah, I don't know about that Noble line because I missed what leads up to it. This is largely the same, the clothing store. I'm just changing the details to match the new reality of where they are. And I think before Hogan was with her, right? So this is not virgin writing, but semi. Get it. Oh my gosh, I hope I fix that. Get it instead of get in. Oh, I just realized something else. Yeah, see... I hope I fix this part about the airport, because that sort of slows it down a little bit. Airport. I'm going to the airport. This will now be said in Boston. Oh, I fixed it. Can change the location. Not much chance to catch them. So that was the other thing, because again, I'm using these real places, real landmarks, real cities, and so you've got real mileages, but 99.972% of the people watching this movie, major motion picture, or streaming are not going to know the geography and how far these places are away. So certainly I could, within reason, I could make that anything I wanted. And people aren't going to like whip out their Google Maps and check me on it, hopefully. But that, my point is that sort of justifies the part about if they take the back roads to avoid being seen, then we'll be able to at least have a chance. Now, as you see, I've added this outline on the left-hand side of the script, which I must have clicked a button because I typically don't have that open. Sometimes, I mean, that's kind of a cool thing, and I'm sure Final Draft has that and a bunch of others do, but it's a cool thing, to be able to easily see your scenes and then obviously drag and drop if you want to interchange them, which very rarely I do. I mean, when you think about it, it shouldn't be too often that you need to change around the order of the scenes. Certainly sometimes, but not a lot. All right. So I'm catching up with myself. Yeah, I don't know that Paul would. Yeah. Wow, I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Something about. Yeah, this. I don't know about that. This may need to go because she's talked to Paul, screen time 5 minutes ago for a minute or two. And I don't know that they need to talk again. Let's see if I'm going to change anything there. FBI. And again, this is a third act of the movie, so we don't need any idle conversation. Yeah. So did he leave his keys in the truck? Did he hotwire it? Do we really care at this point? I don't know that we need to justify that. And so I got rid of it. Wow, day 80. That went pretty fast in terms of the voiceover. But for being 2.5 hours of work, I guess when you're writing, like, quote, that virgin stuff, it obviously takes longer than going through. But so I guess I would say I don't think I accomplished as much as I thought I would based on having written for 2.5 hours plus. But really, let me just pat myself on the back. That was a pretty good day of writing. I think that it was a good change. It's more action. It's more Holly-centric. She's doing stuff a little more exciting. She's shooting the gun. She's fixing a flat tire. That is pretty cool, fixing a flat tire. But yeah, day 80, 4/5 of the way to 100 days. Let's just take a moment and consider that. 80% of the way to 100 days. Will I reach 100 days? What do you think? Leave a comment or give me a call on the Screenwriter's Journey hotline. Will I need 20 more days of writing? Obviously not calendar days, but 20 more days of writing to finish this. Ooh, that is an excellent question. And the only way to have it answered is not by me, because I could tell you because I know how many more days, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep you in suspense and make it a cliffhanger because that's what movies do. And this is the Screenwriter's Journey. See ya.